everybody. Welcome to Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric Hobbs.
And I'm David Woldigan.
And today we are going to preview Mizzou as they begin their basketball season and the Dennis Gates era gets underway. Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. David, season's here for Mizzou basketball, and we're finally going to start learning about all of these new players. Second year in a row.
Yeah, there's a lot of momentum around the program. Dennis Gates has completely reconstructed a roster other than Caleb and Kobe Brown and a couple others. But for the most part,
yeah, those are the only three.
For the most part, it's a brand new roster. So let's dig into this, folks.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of alluded to it. We know next to nothing about this team. Second year in a row where it is a makeshift roster. The one thing we do know, Kobe Brown. He is more than likely going to be the go-to guy on this team. He was selected preseason first team All-SEC, one of 9 guys. So more than 5. They give the honor a 9. But other than that, there are things we think we probably know. And that is, I'd say Isaiah Mosley, averaging north of 20 points a game down at Missouri State. I think you're going to look to him to be kind of a scorer, but teammates were talking about him as a passer.
Yeah, and just having him on the roster is a good thing for Kobe Brown because now some of the scoring pressure can be taken off of him.
Yeah.
And we have a few other guys who are incoming who can shoot the ball, and it will force teams not only just to focus on Kobe, but everybody else, which will open up Kobe to be a menace underneath.
Yeah, and one thing about Kobe Brown under Gates is his body looks different. He looked a lot leaner, and he spoke about how in the Wash U game, he felt himself being quicker. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see just if he's a more dynamic player, just run around the court.
Yes, exactly. Now, Eric, moving on, let's talk about our non-conference schedule.
Yeah, so I think this thing is kind of tailor-made. I think Dennis Gates did a good job of easing this team into the season. And what I mean by that is the first 7 games are kind of soft, to be honest with you. And that's good for a team that is still kind of getting to know each other, how they play together, while Gates is trying to figure out, who's going to be his kind of core of the team, what rotation is going to be most effective, and really just finding out what this team is. KenPom, their rankings, they think fairly highly of Mizzou, I'd say. They are number 41 in the preseason rankings, according to KenPom. Now, to be fair, we're going to reference these with some other teams. This is heavily based on last season, particularly early on. That's just kind of how the formula is devised. Last year will have less and less meaning as more games this season get played. But, Southern Indiana, Penn, Lindenwood, SIUE, Mississippi Valley State, Coastal Carolina, Houston Christian. Those are the first 7 games. Lindenwood, SIUE, some local teams there. The Penn Quakers, second game of the year. That is the Ivy League preseason pick to win the conference. So that one can be tricky. But looking at KenPom, they're like 162. So Mizzou should take care of business. And no reason they can't start off 7-0.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think you're going to see a lot of rotations. You might even see kind of what Gates did against the Wash U for any who are able to listen or hear about the game at all, and just pull people out of their rotations. Don't give them a chance to get a flow, just to see their reactions on the court and see what you have out of some of these players. You're going to see a lot of tinkering with the lineup, just until he can find what works with this team, who plays well together, and then at the same time, you're going to see an identity hopefully form with who we have on the floor.
Yeah, for the exhibition game against Wash U, Gates said that he came up with a starting 5, basically out of thin air, 5 guys who had never been on the floor together on purpose. A lot of experimenting, figuring out what he's got. I think that's going to continue. We may not see that much of Isaiah Mosley for the first couple of games. There's some speculation that he may be trying to recover from an injury. We know nothing of that for sure, but that's just some wild speculation. Maybe there's something to it, maybe not. Something to keep an eye on, I'd say. And then, David, as we look at the rest of the non-conference, Wichita State, that's not going to be an easy game on the road. Then you got SEMO, then Kansas, UCF, and the bragging rights against Illinois and St. Louis. It ratchets up pretty quick there.
Yeah, the good thing about that, though, is those last 3 games, there's a week in between each one of those. So it'll give time for the team to practice, adjust to the level of play, because it is going to get real intense real quick. But that's a good thing because the beginning of the conference season is a gauntlet. So it's going to be a true test to see where the team is. And it'll give Gates an idea of how to attack the regular season or the conference season once that ggets going.
Yeah, I think overall 13 games. I'm going to pick Missouri to lose to Kansas, lose to Illinois. Those are probably the two you want to win most, but I don't think it's happening this year. I'm going to pick them to split UCF in the Orange Bowl Classic or Wichita State. I think they'll win one, and I think they'll beat Iowa State. So I'm going to pick Missouri to be 10-3 in the non-con.
And I had the same exact thoughts. Honestly, I had them going 10-3. I have no idea where that third loss is coming from, but I do have us losing to Kansas and Illinois. I mean, it's a brand new team other than like 3 players. They're going to drop a game just out of sheer fact that they're not used to being together, and they're going to have a down day somewhere. My thought is probably, like you said, Wichita or UCF. But I could see it being Iowa State too, because that's kind of thrown right in the middle of the schedule during the conference season too. So I could see it happening there, but that is a home game, so who knows? And by then this team will have improved a lot too.
Right. Now, looking at conference play, and David, you kind of mentioned it just a minute ago. The schedule is brutal to start conference play for Missouri. December 28th is the conference opener. That is a home game against Kentucky. And man, that's about as hard as it gets to start. But it gets no easier from there. You are talking about Missouri opening up with games again against Arkansas on the road, then home Vanderbilt, and then at A&M, at Florida, home Arkansas, and you're talking about home Alabama. That's the first 7 games. This team could be legitimately getting votes in the top 25, that talent level, and start the conference 1-6. That's a realistic thing.
Very much so. And at the same time, because we don't know what we're going to get, they could come out and surprise us too.
Yeah.
It might be a very good thing that we're facing Kentucky early on. Traditionally, they tend to be a slow starting team season-wise because they're dealing with the same issue. They have new players every year. So it could be a blessing in disguise to face them in the first game of the conference season that early.
For that game specifically, I think it'll be important for the AD to kind of market and get all students in particular back on campus. December 28th, right in the middle of winter break. Yeah, it's going to be hard to get everyone to campus based on history, right? A lot of times those games right after Christmas are just empty.
I don't think they'll have a problem with that one, honestly, but especially
they need to make it a priority either way.
Yeah. And that especially goes if Mizzou knocks off Kansas or Illinois in the non-conference schedule. If that happens, people are going to be paying attention to the program because there's a possibility we could have a really good thing going on our hands.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, after the first 7 games, it does begin to open up a little bit. It's the SEC's gotten so much better that there aren't any real easy stretches. I'm looking at the schedule here. Ole Miss on the road, then Iowa State, and then home LSU at Mississippi State, home Carolina. That's probably the easiest 5-game stretch. in the conference schedule. Maybe later on you got A&M at home, Mississippi State at home, at Georgia. That's a nice stretch. That's that's about it. Other than that, it's not an easy schedule. David, for conference play, 18 games. What kind of prediction are you thinking?
I'm honestly thinking a 9-9.
9-9.
9-9.
Wow. See,
Uh,
I think they're going to struggle a little more. I think they're going to end up going, I'll say 7-11. I think just figuring things out. There's going to be a game or two where, they look like a team that hasn't played together for very long. So with all that, my 7-11, I guess I have them at 17-14 in the regular season, and you've got them at 19-12. And I'll tell you this: 19-12, that would put them on the bubble, I think. And they would be, everybody would be watching to see how they did in the SEC tournament.
Well, and honestly, going into this season, that's kind of how I feel with this team. My biggest concern with this team is there's not a lot of size.
Yes, they are undersized.
How they game plan will be key. Just because we don't have a whole lot of size on this team, so the outside shooting is going to be key this year. And I know saying that always just makes people laugh in the last couple of years with our 20% shooting. But I really do think it's going to be a lot better this year than it has been in the last couple. Plus, we got some great coaches on the staff, and it's going to be fun to see how they work with these players and how they develop.
Yeah, I think Aiden Shaw, we haven't mentioned him yet, really. I think if he emerges quickly, that's going to be gigantic for Missouri and may get them to that level of 9-9 conference, 19-12 type of season that you're talking about. And at that point, I think they'd be able to win a game in the conference, and I think they'd be right there. For me, my bar for this team is about 17-14. Where I have them is to be an NIT team, win a game in the NIT, and show some development. With the recruiting class that it should be coming in next season, looking pretty good on paper, and some of the very highly ranked recruits that Gates is going after for the class of 2024 and beyond. Yeah, there's hope that, and even just an NIT season this season can be a stepping stone to Mizzou getting back to kind of where we want to see Mizzou basketball as a fan base.
Plus, I think it gives Aiden Shaw a year to develop, get some muscle, and get used to conference play. I think he's going to be a very good and talented player, so I'm excited to see how he develops down the road too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest thing for him, talking about if he can be effective and kind of have an impact as a freshman. I think not his height, but just his size, strength. I think that's going to be the biggest limiting factor for him this season.
Anyway, that's all we have for our preview of Mizzou basketball. Stay tuned as the season gets underway, and we'll keep you updated with all the news and events happening around Mizzou Tiger basketball. Thank you for watching.